Hey everybody, it's the fifth Monday of the month, and true to form as we do on this channel, every fifth week we do a top 5. This week we're doing top 5 tips for mind-blowing sex in marriage.
Woo! Let's get into that.
Hey everybody, I'm Nate Warnock.
I'm Andrea Warnock.
And this is Marriage Monday. This is a show that we do every Monday where we take a look at what the Bible says about marriage, about sex, about what it means to be one before the Lord in marriage. And we talk practically about how do we live that out in our marriages in a way that's God-honoring.
Yes. So this week we have a top 5, and it is hot in here.
What?
It's top 5 ways to have mind-blowing sex in marriage.
Right. So this is Marriage Monday, and if you followed us for a while, you know that one of the main staples of this show is that we want to have a better understanding of what God's design for marriage was from the beginning. Right? Matthew 19, Jesus refers back to Genesis 2, right? Marriage from the beginning. And so, that was really a foundational thing for us starting this channel, is what was marriage designed to be from the beginning.
Right.
One thing we know for sure is that from the beginning, sex and intimacy, physical intimacy, was in the design, right? In fact, interestingly, in Genesis, God goes so far as to give us a blueprint for physical intimacy within marriage. What did he say, babe? He said Adam and Eve were in the garden. They were
naked
and
unashamed.
Naked and unashamed. That's
Naked.
right. And it's easy. You get a lot of people that are like, well, yeah, because they didn't know any better, because they didn't have clothing, and they didn't know they were naked. That's complete hogwash, right? I mean, it's hogwash, right? I mean, they were around other animals, right? They knew that animals had fur, and animals had certain body parts that are hidden in their fur and all that, and human beings are like, here it is, right? I mean, they were naked and unashamed. And so, for Andrea and I, we have spent considerable amount of time in our own marriage thinking about what does that mean? Whoa. What does that mean to be naked and unashamed? And what was God's plan for sex? And where this really comes out of for us is sex has become a topic that for some reason, for a long time, and I think this is changing, it's certainly changing on this channel, but for a long time, people sort of looked at talking about sex as like something that the world does, and us Christians aren't going to talk about it. Like, it's going on within our marriages, it's a good thing, it's a biblical thing, but we're not really going to talk about that. That's just sort of, when you get married, we'll tell you that, when a man loves a woman and all that. And it's silliness, right? And so here's the problem. The world, and I mean like nature, hates a vacuum, right? So anytime there's an empty space, it gets filled in with stuff. There's tons of scientific laws that are based on this, right? So if you create an open space, something's going to fill it. Well, the problem is we created a vacuum for a long time. We, being the church, created a vacuum for a long time with regards to talking frankly, respectfully, but frankly, about sex within marriage. And the world filled that vacuum right up, right? And what has happened is the secular world around us has fallen into that trap that Satan always sets, which is Satan wants to take something that God meant for beauty and pervert it to be ugly. And so the analogy we always like to use with sex is designed to be a fire within your marriage. It ignites passions. It draws you close together. It burns off the things that aren't important, right? Let's just speak frankly for a minute. You probably can relate to where you had some things maybe that were bothering you about your spouse, and you guys come together and have sex, and I'm willing to bet if you thought about those things afterwards, there was probably some clarity. Like, yeah, there are 2 or 3 of those things that just really aren't that big of a deal. right? Sex is a fire that sort of burns away some of the grind, how the grind of life gets into our marriage. But here's the problem with a fire. In a fireplace, a fire is great, right? It warms the house. It, provides heat and light and beauty. But if I take that same fire out of the fireplace and put it in the middle of your living room, it's going to burn the house down, right? It will kill everything in it, and it will burn the house down. Sex is like that. The problem is we have created a situation where all over the country we're telling people what you need to be doing is putting the fire in the middle of the living room, and when it burns the house down, it's fine. There are other houses, right? And so, we've created a situation where we've made sex this thing that's no big deal. And unfortunately, people walk around with tons of hurts that are brought about in their lives from sex, whether that's soul ties that they have to people they've had sex with in the past, or their own hurts, or diseases, or children that came out of that relationship that they've got to try, expectations that were broken. There's a ton of things, right? And then also, it kicks you in the butt on the back end too, because then you get into marriage and you start having sex with your spouse, and all of those expectations, previous situations, things you saw that you can't unsee, those all come back in to the marriage and makes it really, really difficult. Andrea and I were talking the other day, and Andrea, made the comment about well, maybe you and I are really bad at sex. And it made us both chuckle. But then I thought, and I had sex before we were married. Andrea did not. But I was thinking about that, and I was thinking that was the way it was designed. Not that we would be bad at it, but that I don't have anything to compare it to. Right. So if there's something about my sex life within my marriage that I don't feel amazing about, I have someone to work that out with. And if we're both really happy with our sex life, but we're really bad at it, who cares? Because we're the only ones that are there, and how would we even know if we were good or bad?
Yeah, and that's the beauty too of you both saving sex until marriage, is that you both are learning it all together along the way.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So let's get right to it. So we like to take these top 5. Sometimes we do fun ones. Sometimes we do more serious ones. This one for us is fun because we like talking about sex. We like being transparent about our sex life. I like encouraging other people in their sex life within their marriage. This is definitely something we need to be diligent about as couples, as my top 5 will get into. And just to put, because that title of this video is maybe a little clickbaitish, and I don't intend it to be, except that I want to make it super clear.
This is not raunchy.
You can have mind-blowing sex in your marriage. Right? Seeing a title like How to Have Mind-Blowing Sex, generally it stops after that word sex, not in marriage. And usually those are in magazines you find in the checkout line at Walmart, right? What I want to say is...
Right.
Go ahead.
No, that's okay.
I would say what I want to say is that's not relegated to the world, right? There's definitely an idea. You can see this in movies a ton, where it's like, hey, you're going to have mind-blowing sex, and then someday you're going to get married, and then you'll have something. You'll have married sex. That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's complete garbage. Sex within your marriage can be mind-blowing. It's meant to be. God designed it to be that way, and we like talking about it. Now, that being said, this isn't like one of those shows where it's like, hey, I'm gonna let me tell you about where to put your hands and all. No, it isn't. Right. It isn't gonna be that.
It's not raunchy,
right? This is how do we move towards having mind-blowing sex within your marriage. So to give you an idea of my top 5. 2 of them are sexually mechanic based, right? And they won't be graphic or anything like that, so you can feel free to watch. But they'll be more the act of sex. The other 3 really don't have anything to do with the moments in which we're having sex. They have to do with what we're doing in all the moments we're not. And I've found that that's really how you get to mind-blowing sex in marriage is you start being more mindful of all the moments in your marriage you're not having sex. And that will make sense as we go through them.
Cool. Well, let's get into that.
Let's do it.
Number 5.
Number
do you want
5.
to start or you want me to start?
You start. I'll follow up on you.
Okay, my number 5 is move out of the bedroom.
Oh.
So
all right.
this can get a little bit more difficult as you have kids, and we've certainly found that. But I'm not talking even necessarily about your house. So when you have kids, it's trickier, but probably before you have kids, it's like, well, we have sex everywhere. And then you have kids that can get up on their own at night, and you're like, we have sex in our bedroom, and it's always on the bed, and so there's lots of other opportunities, other places. So I'm pretty sure everybody has a bathroom with a locked door. The roof.
What?
It's crazy.
I'm just saying, it's not against the HOA. I checked.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so everybody has a bathroom. Probably everybody has a car. And I will say, it doesn't always have to be sex either. Intimacy can be things that are not just sex, right?
Yeah, of course.
So move out of your bedroom. Maybe you're on a drive to a vacation and you veer off the road and find an abandoned barn, and
we're talking about a friend of ours.
It's just an idea, and that sounds good at the moment. Or of course we want to
mix it up.
Yes, but of course we want to not be raunchy and making sure that other people are not seeing us, right?
Of course.
So we got to be careful about that. But there are lots of places where you can spice it up and not be having sex in the same place, getting into a rut. And so move out of your rut, move out of your bedroom if that's what your rut is, and explore other places.
That's great. Yeah, that ties in a little bit to one that I'll have here in a few minutes. So I will save my comments until then.
And I'll say with that too, the fun part about that is that you two then have stories that are just between the two of you that you can chuckle at,
Right.
There's places that we've had sex that we chuckle about because nobody else knows, but it would probably surprise a whole bunch of people, and it's just between the two of us,
Right, like the roof.
That's not a thing.
That's so true, though, and that adds to the intimacy piece of it, right? I mean, that's part of the mind-blowing part of it, is that there are things I have with you that I'll never have with anybody else, and it's great. And there are times when we drive by a barn and we could be in a crowd of 40 people and we can have a moment, just the two of us, chuckling about that and nobody else knows. Right. That's awesome. It's great. Okay. It's great. All right. My number 5, talk about sex as a couple frequently. It's so bizarre to me, the number of couples that don't talk about their sex life, right? It's like Fight Club, right? You don't talk about Fight Club. Our sex lives is not like Fight Club, right? I mean, we should be talking about these things frequently, and I don't know if it's born out of a like you and I were talking about, where maybe we're really bad at sex, and so you don't want to say something and have your spouse go, yeah, you are pretty bad. Right?
Do you want to know?
Right. That's just it. And so I don't know if it's born out of that. I don't know if it's born out of, hey, we kind of feel some embarrassment about this, or, I don't know. I don't know exactly what it's born out of, but, man, I would really highly recommend make a point as a couple to talk about sex, right? What are the things that you're into? What are the sexual fantasies that you have? That's sort of those areas where you can start getting, ideas together for things that you can do together down the road. And, this is going to come up, I'm certain of it, in several of our top 5. So I just want to say this now. Andrew and I believe biblically that the Bible teaches that sex is a gift that is not meant to be a limited gift within marriage. Meaning that You are limited in marriage to your imagination and your sense of creativity and a recognition that Paul talks about that your wife's body is yours and your body is hers, meaning she should be, for guys, she should be a higher priority than your own self-gratification. So your imagination and your creativity may be a 10, hers might be a 6. That means yours is a 6. Because we want to be honoring of our spouse. So if there are things you want to do that he doesn't want to do or she doesn't want to do, then they would be wrong for you to go down those roads, because we want to respect our spouse first and foremost. That's 1, right? 2 is we are limited biblically by things that involve other people, right? Besides our spouse.
Or animals.
Thank you. Or animals. People other than your spouse or animals, right? No, you're right. I mean, you're right. So that's right. So what do I mean by that? Well, it means we shouldn't be having sex with other people literally involved in the sex, right? Also, watching pornography or bringing that into your marriage is wrong, because Christ says if you look at another woman or man in lust, you have committed adultery with them, right? That's the purpose of pornography, is to look at another person with lust. So no pornography, no other people, no animals, no violating, your spouse's, what they're comfortable doing.
Yep.
Outside of that, we're going for it.
It's open.
That's right.
Open season.
So talk about sex frequently, because that's where you learn those. That's where you learn, hey, I always thought you were a 6. Turns out you're an 8 with things that you want to do together in our sex life. Let's start doing that. Or things change, right? I mean, there are things that, Andrea and I didn't do sexually because, Andrea or I weren't comfortable doing those things, and those have changed over time to where we're like, oh, yeah, I'm more into this.
Yeah, maybe as our intimacy has grown over our marriage, then our comfortability with each other has grown, and then we're more open to things. So, go ahead.
And how would we know about that if we didn't talk about it?
I'll have more to say about that, all that you just said later.
Oh, hey-o. All right, great. That's number 5, talk about sex frequently.
Okay, number 4.
Yeah.
My number 4 is change it up. So what I mean by that is the type of meal that you're having. So we talk about sex sometimes in meal format, like a snack, a fast food meal, a sit-down dinner, a buffet, So you've got lots of different meal options. And if you're sticking with the same one, that's really unsatisfying after a period of time.
Yep.
If you're having lots of snacks or quickies or whatever, that isn't probably creating the intimacy that you're looking to create in your marriage. And you're missing out on so many things. I mean, there's a lot of...
I see your wheels turning as you try to think about how can I say this in a way that
How better could you spend an hour and a half sometimes than to just have a buffet of sex, right? It for somebody who's used to just having these quick kind of sexual escapades with each other, probably thinking about having a buffet or a 5-course dinner is like, oh my gosh, what the heck? But try it out, because you may find that there's different types of food offerings that you enjoy.
Right.
So change it up with what you're doing. We have seasons of our life where we don't have the time to really have long and involved sex capades with each other, but then we have seasons of life where we do. So
right. And as the intimacy's grown in our marriage, we're better about carving out those times too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is changing it up doesn't necessarily happen on a whim. It's purposeful.
Yeah, that's right.
So I mean, anything in life worth anything, you have to be intentional about, and sex is one of them.
Right.
So being intentional about every area of sex is important, but yeah, change it up. You'll find your intimacy grows if you're willing to just have a different type of meal.
Right. Yeah, it's really good, babe. I appreciate you bringing that one up. But I also want to highlight those times where so often couples can fall on one side or the other, right? Where it's like maybe in an effort to make sex a priority when the kids were young, a couple got in a flow of having, a quick, hey, the kids are watching a show for the next 15 minutes, let's go. And then as the kids got older and or the season, of life changed and you could have scheduled out those longer things, it's like, well, we just keep running back to just go real quick, right? And, different strokes for different folks, I suppose. But, man, I would encourage you to do exactly what Andrea said and change it up, right? And plan out.
Yeah, the reality is there is a lot more intimacy that's found when you have a significant amount of time that you have carved out.
Yep,
maybe
totally agree.
You are intimate during that whole time. And what I mean by that is maybe you have sex and then you lay there naked with each other, talking, whatever, and then you have something, you do something else, whatever. So
yeah, right.
Those provide a lot more openness in intimacy in general for you two than just running to that quickie all the time.
Right. That's really good. Yep, that's great. And again, all of these, our goal is to lead to deeper intimacy, because the deeper the intimacy, the more mind-blowing the sex will be. That's how sex was designed to be. We've been tricked, haven't we, as a society, into thinking, it's going to be the most mind-blowing sex? This person, you don't even know his or her name, and you met them 6 seconds ago on the corner.
Yeah,
right?
No, the mind-blowing part isn't necessarily the physical part. It's offering all of me to all of you.
Right. That's good, babe.
And that's the goal. Is I'm naked and unashamed, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Sex is a spiritual act, and so getting to that point where I can offer all of me to all of you.
Yep. Yeah.
That's the mind-blowing part.
Totally. That's great. Really good. So my number 4 is be serious about having fun in sex. Mm-hmm. So often, sex, I think what can make sex seem ho-hum in marriage is that for some reason, it all of a sudden seems super serious. Like the world makes you think, hey, what do we call it? What kind of sex do we call it when you just meet somebody at a bar? Casual sex, right? It sounds like, hey, this is chill and fun.
No strings attached.
We're just having fun together, right? And it's a lie, and unfortunately, it wrecks people's lives. But the problem is, I think we've still bought into that within marriage. That like, okay, well, if that's casual sex, then what we're having is formal sex, and it is going to be very serious, and because we're making babies. And that's all we're doing here, and whatever the case may be, or honestly, I feel like guys and girls, more often girls than guys, can get to this place in marriage where it's like, well, sex is what I have to do because I want to, I want him to be happy, so it's my chore. I take out the garbage and I do the laundry and I have sex and. It's my chore list, and that's tragic within marriage. It's not the way it's designed to be.
Right.
And so for me, it's be serious about having fun, right? And that means you're going to have to talk about it. You're going to have to talk about why you're not having fun in your sexual relationship with your spouse. And is that conversation going to be difficult and uncomfortable? Yes. But build that habit into your life now, even if you haven't done it in the past. And if you're an almost married or newly married couple, vow to start that when you get married, because you might think as an engaged couple, oh, sex is going to be the easiest part of our marriage, and it might be at first, but if you don't make a habit of talking about it regularly and just asking the question, hey, are you enjoying this? Like, are you having fun? Am I pursuing you the right ways sexually? Am I giving you those butterflies and, making you want to have sex with me. How is that going? If you don't make a point of asking that, then pretty soon the fun is going to get sucked right out of your sex life because it's going to become mundane. It's going to become mechanical. And it's going to be something that you do just, I guess, because you think the other person needs it. And tragically, pretty soon you're going to look at each other and go, yeah, let's just not. Right? Because it's not fun. It's a chore. And that's not how sex is meant to be.
Think about when you were younger and you went to a birthday party and gave your friend a gift. You probably really thought a lot about the gift that you wanted to give and thought about the person and wanted them to enjoy that, right? When you gave them that gift, the point wasn't that they opened it and enjoyed it for a little while and then on down the road they were only playing with it because they felt like they were obligated to because you gave it to them.
Right. Right.
God gives us this gift of sex to enjoy it and not have this obligatory attitude about it. So it's a great point that you made.
Awesome. Number 4, thanks babe. Be serious about having fun. What you got, babe? 3.
Number 3. Okay, so this is going to be what your number 5 was.
Okay.
Talk. So talk before, what I say is talk before, during, and after sex. So talk before, I'm not talking about like right before. I mean, have it be a regular conversation. Nathan and I are, this may surprise a lot of people. We are talking about sex a lot, and we're probably talking about sex around you and you don't even know it.
That's probably true.
Sometimes.
That's probably true.
I would say that more for our kids, probably. But,
yeah, well, there's no doubt we talk about it around our kids and they don't know.
Right. So there's a significant amount of talk that happens here.
That's right.
Some of it is very in-depth about what I'm feeling, what he's feeling, what I like, what he likes, So we're talking before, during, and then after. This may be really odd, but a lot of times afterwards is like kind of a overview. How was that? There's conversations that we have that's like, man, that was whatever, really great, or that could have gone better occasionally. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we don't talk like you're talking right now. That sounds like I just got called in for my 90-day review.
Oh my gosh, no. It just kind of naturally flows, Sure. It's like...
But it didn't for us for a long time.
Right? No. So what Nathan was saying earlier is there's a lot of times this embarrassment about talking about sex, and we had that for a long time.
Yeah, we did.
And the funny thing is, we'll be naked in front of each other, having sex or doing something intimate, but yet we don't want to talk about sex.
Right.
Does that seem funny? It seems funny to me.
Yeah, totally.
So as our intimacy in our relationship has grown, our comfortability with talking to each other about anything, including sex, has grown too. And It's a great part of our relationship where we feel very free to tell each other what we're thinking, how we're feeling, what we think we might want, and trying, and let's try this out, whatever. Yeah. And then during, you can, being free to offer suggestions during the process, or just talking about, that, or not that, during the process is a great thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and as a side note, again, not being graphic, but for guys really like that. Like, especially if he's doing something... of course it comes
across better than, that, or not that. It doesn't sound like that.
No, it doesn't. But, for guys, that's a huge turn on. Girls, like, to share, like, hey, more of that. That feels really good. That doesn't feel good. Being verbal.
Try this.
Is great. Otherwise, we're probably going back to the same thing that we did 4 years ago, the last time you gave some sort of verbal confirmation, and we're like, well, that works, so I'm just going to go with that for a few years until she says something else.
And kind of going to your point about keeping the fun in it, be willing to laugh at yourself too. If you're talking and you're like, try this, and then you try it and you're like, whoa, disaster, never mind, have fun with it. Be willing to laugh at yourselves and not be serious all the time
Yeah,
either.
it's
So
meant to be fun.
so yeah, talk about things before, during, and after.
Yeah, it's great.
What's your number 3?
My number 3 is take your time. So we talked about quickies, and there's certainly is a place for that. That's, sex. If sex is the gift or is the tool for marriage, it's sort of got a whole bunch of different attachments to it, where not all sex is exactly the same. I thought you did a good job of talking about that, but sometimes I think that's the way we need to think about it. Is sex can there's a place for the wham bam thank you ma'am sex.
Sure.
Right? I mean, there's a place for that. And in fact can even be fun, right? Hey, the kids are going to be watching this cartoon. It's 8 minutes long. What do you think? Mm-hmm. Right? That type of thing can be fun. It can be, it can be a lot of fun. But for me, the take your time is that I feel like too many couples are falling into this trap of, even when we don't need to make it quick, we're choosing that. And I think a lot of intimacy gets left on the table when we do that. And so, particularly for guys, and I'm not talking about like the actual act of sex, drag that out, right? I mean, maybe, yeah, that's worth doing if that's a thing in your marriage, but I'm talking about the lead up, right? I'm talking about the foreplay and being focused on your spouse and taking time to explore your spouse's body and see what things they like and don't like, and do the massage oils thing and the whatever stuff is sounds good to you in the lead up. So often I think it's easy, particularly if you have a family that's milling around the house, it can be easy to just get right to it. But I mean, the lead up to it can be just as fun and rewarding as a couple as the actual sex is. And I think that's really where a lot of the intimacy is built up. And I think, guys, it's a good way that we can send a clear message to our spouse that our spouse is not a sex receptacle, right? This is not like hey, do you want to have sex? Then let's really quick get to the part that has a payoff for me as the guy, right? Taking that time with our spouse's bodies and getting comfortable with who they are physically, I think, is a really intimate thing. And I think it means a lot to our spouse. It's rewarding physically, it feels good, and it ultimately makes sex a more enjoyable, mind-blowing experience for both of you.
Great.
So number 3 for me, take your time.
Number 2. Okay, my number 2 is be willing to say yes when your mood says, I have a headache.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I'm talking from my perspective, and my perspective is I don't want to say yes as often as Nathan wants me to say yes. But our drives are different. But I really try to purpose to say yes when my mood says I have a headache. And sometimes that yes is like, I'm not feeling it. Can you get me in the mood? Mm-hmm. And so he's gracious to be like, sure, or sometimes it's like, sure, I'm saying yes, but I need 5 minutes to wrap my head around that. So I'm going to kind of get ready in the bathroom, and I'm going to wrap my brain around. I'm going to start thinking sexual thoughts with my husband and sort of wrap my mind and my hormones around that. Mm-hmm. So I think that changes your intimacy, your relationship with each other, when you have one whose drive is less than the other one, and being willing to say, maybe just even internally and not externally, but sometimes being willing to say, not really what I was thinking about for tonight, but all right, yeah. I can get into that, sometimes including your spouse and saying, can you help me get in the mood?
Yep.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
So be willing be willing to say yes when your mood wants to say, I have a headache.
Nice. I like that. And this is something that you've grown a ton in. I mean, this is something that I can really tell you've made a purposeful,
thanks.
purpose yourself to do, which means a ton to me as the spouse. And I know it's different for couples. There's tons of couples we talk to where the girl's sex drive is higher than the guy's, and but very rarely do we find that couple where they're like, man, our sex drives are identical.
Yes.
Very rarely.
Right.
But it means a ton to the spouse who might have a higher sex drive if you purpose and intend to do that. In the same way, I think it means a lot to the spouse maybe with the lower sex drive for the person with the higher sex drive. Those times when they're like, I whatever this is the reason, I just can't wrap my head around that tonight to say, hey, that's totally cool.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. There's days where, and I try hard to not make them very often, but there are definitely days with 4 kids that I'm like, I am touched out. I cannot imagine being touched by anybody else. And Nathan is like, all right, and I'm so thankful for that.
Like, all right, we'll do it without touching each other. I don't know how that works. All right, my number 2, choose to mix it up. So you said change it up. This is a crossover between you and I completely agree with what you said there. You were talking about changing up location, which is really good. I'm talking about just mixing it up generally, right? I mean, this can be like sex position wise, right? You might be tried and true heart to heart couple, and maybe you need to mix it up. And do something different, right? Talk about that as a couple. Maybe trying something new, maybe trying something different, maybe trying something that you thought of and thought, hey, this might be fun. Being willing to be vulnerable and share those things with your spouse. And as the spouse who's receiving these things from your spouse, not being like, that's gross, or I'm never doing that, or you need Jesus, or any of those kinds of things. But we do. Both spouses do need Jesus, by the way. But just being willing to talk openly about that and mix it up so that we're not getting in a rut. You mentioned that term rut, and that's a good one because, again, the ruts can steal the intimacy from the sex within your marriage because it becomes mechanical. I think we're constantly needing to choose to be intentional in sex to not fall into those ruts.
Yep. Cool.
So that's my number 2. Choose to mix it up.
Okay, my number 1 was stolen by his number 2, but it's the same. It's the same thing. Choose different things.
Yeah.
So I have, be open to new things or be open to change.
Yeah.
And I talked about location earlier, but I mean, like, you guys, if the world of opportunities is open to you in regards to sex, use it.
Right.
There are devices we can bring in.
That are not other people.
Toys. That's what I'm talking
dogs.
about. What?
Or dogs.
Or dogs. Yes.
You brought that up.
Well,
yeah,
I was
but
just
you're right.
being explicit earlier.
Right, you're
but
right.
There's clothing that you can. In fact, Ty and Terry Schenzel were pretty open that Terry had like a vacation wardrobe that she would wear when
she'd share
when
this.
She and Ty would go on vacation.
Yep.
She had a wardrobe that she wore for him, and it was like stuff that she'd never wear at home, but she was free to wear it with Ty and they loved that part. So
right, and just to be clear, although I'm sure this was in that, but she was talking about like just like clothing to wear like around the house that they were staying or hotel or wherever they were staying at. Right? Andrew's not talking just about lingerie. Right. There might be certain skirts or pants or
that you would never wear out in public.
You're like, no.
But maybe you'd wear it around the whole day at the place that you're renting.
Right.
But it's just the two of you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's great. It's good. It's a good call, babe.
Be willing to do different things. Yeah, like you were saying, try different positions, try different times of the day, whatever.
Yeah.
The world of opportunity. Go spelunking. If you've never gone spelunking, then just whatever.
Wow. Yeah, you'll get that in about 5 minutes. All right. That's good, babe. That's real good. That's a good number one. All right. My number one is all about spelunking. No, it's not.
Wait, I want to say that's really funny. I want to say something though.
What?
If you are lost as far as I don't even know what I'm doing, like I don't know what I'm doing because this is all new to me.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love
Yeah,
that. But
me
also
too.
there's God honoring books out there that can help you
Yep.
in that area. So
Agreed.
sheet music is one of them, and that's the only one I can think of right now. But it helps more with like the mechanics.
Fun Loving You is a good one. I mean, it's not mechanical, but
Yeah.
but it's good about
Sheet
sex.
music is a God honoring book about the mechanics. If you just don't know because that's a new world for you,
Yeah,
read that, and I think that can help you a lot. So
it's good. Sheet music.
yeah. Okay, sorry. So what's your number one?
Spelunking.
Oh my gosh.
No, it's not. My number one is not spelunking, but that is my new favorite moment from Marriage by Design. All right. My number one
Now we're gonna have to
is-
see like a heightened search in Google for what spelunking.
That's right. My number one for top 5 ways to have mind-blowing sex within your marriage
begging.
is protect purity within your marriage.
Yeah.
And that's all the moments that you're not having sex. Although it includes when you're having sex, right? Again, see the pornography discussion from earlier, in the episode. But this is probably the biggest thing I see gets couples sideways when it comes to sex. And specifically, I'm talking about, remember that old Sunday school song, "Be careful, little eyes, what you see," right? And, it says, because the Father up above is looking down with love, right? Which is it's not an amazing Sunday school song,
Right.
because it makes your kids think God's up there just waiting for them to screw up.
And
But-
yeah, yep.
But in this case, you should be careful, little eyes, what you see, because Satan down below is looking
Ready to wreak havoc.
right.
He prowls around like a lion, seeking whom he may devour.
That's right. And so the shows that we watch, and guys, I'm talking to you at least as much, if not more, than I'm talking to the women. It's really hard to watch any show right now on any sort of streaming service that doesn't have nudity in it. And I know you're going to tell me about how it's no big deal. It's, you can just look away or whatever, and that's fine. Maybe you can. But man, be nuclear when it comes to protecting purity in your marriage, because that extra pause on the television at that beach scene, or stopping for one extra look at this woman's sporting events, those things get noticed by our spouses, and they can be really hurtful.
Yeah, and even if they don't get noticed by the spouse,
Yeah.
you're not looking at your spouse in those moments
Right.
and thinking about your spouse
That's
in those
right.
moments in that in a sexual way.
That's right.
That's wrong.
Yeah, and it comes back to hurt you in your marriage, really, just clearly, because you start comparing, right? And comparison is the absolute mortal enemy of intimacy, right? As soon as you start thinking about, oh man, I'd love my spouse a little bit more if he looked like this or she looked like this. And you might not be explicitly doing this, but if you're not protecting purity in your marriage, it's happening. And it happens in subtle ways that will divide you from your spouse, and it'll wreck the intimacy in your marriage.
Yeah, and this comes in play too with books that we read. So this may be a little bit more pointed towards women and the books that we're reading. But if you're reading a book that's conjuring images in your head of sex or sexually explicit things, that's not right. And probably what's going to happen with that is that you're going to start to compare, and maybe you're having this lust situation in your head for a scene in a book,
Right.
and that's not right. So books, it's not just things that we see with our eyes, like pictures,
Movies
but
or
maybe it's a
whatever,
picture in your head that's made from words in a book.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then it isn't even just sexual things either, right? Allowing people outside of your marriage to have intimate looks into your marriage is a dangerous situation as well.
Yeah,
right? So
what do
be
you mean by
careful. Like having friends where you're sharing things about your spouse with them that is not honoring to your spouse, right? That hurts purity within your marriage. It's not the sexual purity, but it's the purity of the unity of your marriage, right? You're essentially, dragging down your spouse's reputation to your friends, right? If you're a guy and you have a girl that and you're sharing any sort of divisions in your marriage or whatever, you are just asking for it, because it just is too easy for that to lead to a situation where she's sympathizing with you over what's going on in your marriage, and pretty soon that leads to a situation where you're going, well, at least she understands me and treats me the way I deserve to be treated, and can lead down all sorts of horrible roads.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that so many times.
Right.
Right.
So purity in your marriage, it's so important. And that's something you can do right now, right, to recommit to that. So some of these things you might be listening to them and going, okay, I can't do that because we don't have the kind of intimacy where that's a thing right now, where we can mix it up, where we can change up locations, where we can, talk even openly about sex.
Sure.
What you can do right now is commit to intimacy within your marriage with the goal of getting to a place of having mind-blowing sex within your marriage, which is the gift God desires you to have within your marriage. So if you protect that purity and you seek after Him and come to Him with this desire of your heart, read sheet music, get plugged into a small group at your church, find another couple where you can build a relationship where you can ask them open questions about their intimacy in hopes of building intimacy within your marriage. It all starts right here with a commitment to purity within your marriage.
Right. Yeah, and remember the mind-blowing part is really as it pertains to the two of you. Nobody else needs to think that you have a mind-blowing intimate marriage. The two of you need to know. So if some of these things are like, whoa, that's way outside our comfort zone.
Right.
That would never be anything that we would enjoy.
Right.
Great.
Then don't do it.
Then don't feel the pressure to do them or whatever.
Totally.
That's gonna make or break your sex life. The two of you are the ones that need to decide what a great gift of intimacy and sex looks like for you. And that could be completely different than what it looks like for us.
Yep.
So
good call.
I guess, and I'll add an extra number one in here. And this may be something very difficult, especially if you find it hard to talk to your spouse about sex, but praying about your sex life, especially if you're praying together about your sex life, is amazing. We've had a lot of challenges in our sex life, and I'm sure you probably could figure that if you know our story. But I've had my own challenges because of past sexual abuse that I have, and then of course we've had our challenges because of huge massive issues that we've had in our marriage, and we have struggled through a lot of those things, and sometimes we still do, but there's been a lot of prayer that's gone into just the intimacy of our marriage, and that does great and mighty things. You can't even believe it. So my extra number one would be pray over your sex life and pray together. And it's not just sex, pray over the intimacy between the two of you. God will be faithful to bring intimacy and bring a mind-blowing intimate relationship for the two of you in sex and outside of sex, if you are faithful to commit that to Him.
Preach.
So
it's great. Awesome. Well, guys, I hope this was fun for you to listen to. I know it was fun for us to spend some time talking about and thinking about the two of us. God's desire is that we would have mind-blowing intimacy, which will lead to mind-blowing sex within our marriage. Sex is something that's honoring to Him within marriage. It's something that brings you closer together, and it's something that we desire for every married couple, particularly every Christian married couple, that you'd have mind-blowing sex. So hopefully that some of these top 5 that we brought to you resonated with you. If you have questions, thoughts, comments, welcome to put them in the comments below. Please keep it PG rated. If you have other questions, maybe that don't fit into that box, you can shoot us an email, marriagebydesignpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll answer those there. Also, join the conversation on Facebook and our Facebook group, Marriage by Design Podcast. Until then, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for being with us for another month. So glad we got to do a top 5. Can't wait to see you this Friday and then next Monday for more Marriage by Design.
Hey, thanks for joining us on Marriage by Design. If you were impacted by this video, like it by hitting the thumbs up below. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and once you subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can be notified when new episodes release.
Excellent. Also, one of the huge pillars of our show is interactivity between us and you. So we would love you to comment down in the comments below if you have thoughts about this video, or if you have questions or other things you'd like to see considered in the future. In addition, if you'd like, you can email us. That's marriagebydesignpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram @marriagebydesignpodcast, or you can find us on Facebook by searching Marriage by Design Podcast. Finally, if you want to, you can tweet at us. We do have a Twitter account that is @MarriageXDesign. Thanks, and have a great day.